Now, am I being heard? I don't know. Let's get a test going here. Testing. Testing. Am I being heard? I don't know. Am I broadcasting? I am added to the stream. I'm on the stream, which I wasn't before. Everyone hearing me okay? Am I being heard? Man, oh man. I have no way to know. Let's see here. See, someone's contacting me. Anyone out there hearing me? I'm live. No, yeah. Yeah, okay. I think, well, now I know. I've finally figured out how to sound check this sucker. All right, well, good. I'm going to go on like nothing happened, everyone. So the first few minutes, I'm sorry about that. Again, if anyone does show up later, hey, just let me know. Let me know what's going on. I know that I was being heard there, it looks like. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, this is a bit of a different kind of intro, different kind of day, different kind of opening for the show. We lost a really good man. And there will be an empty spot on this show going forward that will never be able to be filled. But we're going to keep going forward for Claw because he would want us to. And I know he's listening, and I know he's watching down on us. And he wants us to give Zack Snyder so much shit today that I know he won't be happy if we don't. So I'm going to do what Klobby would want us to do and keep going like he's here with us on the panel. And we're going to do that. And I'm going to let everybody have a few minutes to say a few things about our fallen comrade. And I just want to thank all of you for the last few days for all the outpouring of support and love. And I especially want to thank Mark and Mike here on the panel as well for keeping us all up to date. Mark D with a C is who I'm referring to, for those who may not know. But yes, for those who may not have heard the sad news, we lost Clobbering Times. And yeah, so I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to talk. I'm going to let Mike start. Go ahead.
Clobby was one of my first 5 friends that I ever made on YouTube. I don't know if he was the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th, but I know he was in that the very, very few first. And when I say first friends, I mean one of the first people I met in the chats, who I connected with, who I bonded with, who I became friends with. That relationship grew from a couple guys just talking at each other in the chat as strangers, to then being involved in Loki's Valhalla and Xanadu with Doomcock. I have so many friends now on YouTube, but in the beginning, Clobby was one of the few. Before Midnight's Edge, before MEAD, before Doomcock, before everybody and everyone, before Valhalla, before Echo Base Network, before Loki. Back in the early days of Xanadu, there was Clobby. And Clobby was always there for me. He is the 4th fallen warrior, what I call one of the original knights of the Doomcock Xanadu Roundtable. He was a consoling voice for me when we lost Admiral O.F. Doom. He and I struggled when we lost our good friend Mark Steven. He went by Mark C online. Who, by the way, it was Mark that got me to come on live streams and not be an introvert. He made me an extrovert, and Claudia encouraged Mark to do that with me. He was Claudia would always, I think even back then he was joking that I would be a YouTuber, though I still am not a YouTuber. And then he was a great friend when we lost Carmen was saying, and if anyone ever told me we're going to lose Claudia, who has been a staple on this show for so long, I would never believe it. So I have lost a brother. We have all lost a great friend. And Claudia, I love you. I will miss you. I will fondly remember 3 things, amongst many others, but amongst the many things I'll remember 3 things. 1, our constant arguments over whether or not I'm a YouTuber, which he refused to debate me because he just said, "You're a YouTuber." I'm like, "No, give me reasons." I don't have to. You're a YouTuber. The second thing about Flash being a great superhero, which of course, as we know, Speedy Gonzalez is the real Flash. And of course, Zack Snyder, where years ago, he told me, "Mikey, you know, I love you, even though you seem to like the Snyder filth, because it is filth." So I love you. I miss you. There will always be a seat here on me, and there will always be a place for you in my heart. To the great Clobbering Times, I say, hail.
Yeah. Price, anything you want to say?
Well, before you asked me to start doing these streams with you on Midnight's Edge After Dark, I knew of Klobby, and I think we even followed each other on Twitter. But suddenly I was in a situation that probably for the past year, probably twice a week, he and I are here, and amongst all the people here in the panel, I always felt that some people like Nick and I, we know a lot about action movies from the 80s, and there's a lot of stuff that we have kind of in common that we can talk and contribute to each other. And Cece and I both like music and can talk about that. And you and I, Tom, know about a lot of different things. But I was always I felt with Klobby that he just knows so much that I always thought to myself, like, I probably can't contribute much to him because I can't out comics him when it comes to comics because he knows so much. And even Doctor Who, which I do know about, I always felt like he knew more than me. And I loved his views. And a lot of times I found myself, and we'd had great conversations and we'd agree with each other. But I always thought to myself that, maybe I don't bring a lot to the table when it comes to Klobby. And then a few weeks ago, we had a stream and you mentioned something about Doctor Who, and Klobby suddenly said, "Hey, Price, I watched your video, that you did about Doctor Who, and I think you did a really great job." And I don't know if people noticed on that stream, I was kind of surprised because I didn't think that he actually sat and watched anything I did. Not that he wasn't a great guy, but I just thought like I couldn't contribute anything to him. And the fact that he saw my video and he took time to talk about how much he liked it on the stream, it really meant something to me. And I felt like we were sort of, getting closer, if that means anything. And I don't know, I just was thinking about it over the past few days because this really just happened a few weeks ago, and he was here 1 minute and now he's not here. And I don't know, I feel like I needed more time with him and I didn't get it, and it's been bothering me, and I don't know, I guess I'm just rambling and I don't know what to say, so I'll let
Trust me, I know how you feel because today's topic is a tough one.
Yeah, so
because Klobby and I used to debate Watchmen all the time, and we had always talked about doing something where we talk about it. But we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But no, I know he respected each and every one of you guys on the panel and all you guys out there in the chat. And he was too humble. He would never let me praise him. He would always say, "I don't even understand why you have me here sometimes." And I would like, "Are you crazy? There is nobody that knows as much about comic books as you do. Not just comic book, was Star Trek, other nerd stuff.
Doctor
He
Who.
was Doctor Who. I mean, I didn't know shit about Doctor Who, but I could sit here and that's kind of the cool thing about the last few weeks when you guys were talking about Doctor Who at the beginning of the show. Is like, you two would just run with it. And I loved when Clobby would light up and just start talking about things, because it always seemed like you had to get him to push him to kind of, like, come on, I know you got something to say, but he always felt like he didn't not belong, but he didn't deserve to be here, which is bullshit. We didn't deserve him.
Yep.
I wish he understood that. I wish I could tell him that again. Because I tried so many times to tell him that, and I just don't think he wanted to hear it. And not because he's being mean or anything like that, just because he's so humble, right? He just couldn't fathom that. I don't think he understood and realized how big of a hole he's left with everybody here. And I just wish he would have understood when he was alive that how much he meant to everybody, and it sucks. It really does. Anyway, I'm sorry. CC, did you want to say anything?
Sure. I'm still trying to process this. I've made so many friends on YouTube since I started here, and Clobby included. And I mean, it's not. I don't wake up every day thinking I'm gonna lose anybody. I just expect that my friends are still gonna be there tomorrow when I wake up, right? And then suddenly Clobby's not here. And even when he got hurt, I just kept thinking to myself, he's going to get back up because he's Clobby. And then I woke up and he's not here. And I'm not really sure how to put my thoughts together on that, because he's Captain Clobby, and he earned that title, right? I mean, I was listening last night to the stream, and I think one of the best points that came up on the show, remembering him, is his encyclopedic knowledge, and that goes both to what Price was saying and what you were saying, Tom. I mean, first of all, I wish I had more time with him. I'm glad that I got to have the time with him since I met him through you and through everyone here and on Midnight's Edge. But I wish I had more time. I wish I could have gone to meetups with him, to actually, sit at a table with him face to face and hear him talk. Because you're right. And I always got this impression from both that he's the most wonderful imaginable person, and he really exudes that. But also his knowledge. I mean, he had an encyclopedic knowledge of everything. But there's one thing that he's left behind, and I want to get on a positive note here. That was mentioned last night, is everything he ever talked about, for the most part, about like the history of comics and all these characters we love and these stories we love, that he could articulate as well or better than anybody else is recorded. Like his library of knowledge is recorded, and it's always going to be there for us to learn from him and to absorb. He has left that behind for us. So that's my attempt to say,
Thank
we'll
you for
always
that,
have
CC.
that.
Yeah. And yeah. Was there anything else more you had to say? Sorry.
No, that's
okay. Because Nick, man.
Oh, yeah.
You did a couple shows with Clobby every week besides this one. So
single week for the last 3.5 years. I had seen this man minimum 3 to 4, sometimes 5 or even 6 shows a week. And that's not including one of those shows. Sometimes the show would end and him and I would chat for another hour or two, as long as the stream was. So you would double that time. And he was like Mike, he was one of my very, very first friends on YouTube. I remember the first time we linked up, it was the day before Thanksgiving in 2020. And it was just we clicked instantly. Even though I already knew in my head that this guy, whatever I knew on comics, movies, whatever I knew, he ran circles around me. but we had a great bond of conversation. And whether it was Midnight's Edge After Dark, or the comic shop show that we do on Friday nights, or my occasional appearance on the Geekery, or the Thursday afternoon Global Geek I used to do, him and I would have some one-on-one shows, whether it was talking the Long Halloween, Spidey animated series, and we were trying to set for another show, and we kept postponing because some got in my way, some got in his way, and I'm never gonna have that now. I hate that. That's never gonna be a thing. Even though I remember last week we were hanging on the comic shop show. I said to him on that stream when I hit my 2K, that on that stream, I said to Clobby, dude, you're next. You'll probably get within the next week or two. I was right, but under the worst circumstances that it had happened, because we came up together practically. We've always been like within like 50 to 100 of each other. It was fun to have that path of growing, and I loved it because Clobby and I, and I guess you could even apply it to our friend Mark, we're kind of guys who went our own way a little bit more differently amongst our sphere. We tend to like showcase primarily the fun things, and that was more of our primary basis. And we could go on and on about our love of things all day long, and it would be nice. Like then you come along when you can. It was just always an endless party with him, and he was always cordial with anything. Anytime anything come up, he was always understanding. I don't think I've ever had an argument with the man. Even when him and I disagreed on things, we never had an argument. And this is probably been this has definitely been the toughest 24 hours of my life in the last few years, easily. I definitely I can't replace this, and I just gotta know that I will definitely cherish every memory from now until forever I had, which I thought I did then, but I'm gonna do so more so going forward. Like Clobby became a part of my life. He's the first YouTuber, and I'm very, very deeply quiet about my personal life. He's the first one who met my children on here. He's the very first one. For me to let someone in my life like that, it takes a lot. That's how much I respected Clobby. He loved them back, and he loved the fact that he could rip on me because I'm a Johnny Storm guy. He's a Ben Grimm guy, but my kids hated Johnny Storm, and he used that as leverage on me. Oh, now I won't forget his Stan Lee impressions. To close it out, please go through the old comic talk episodes we were watching and talking classic Spider-Man. His Stan Lee impressions had me dying. No joke pun intended, but I thought I was gonna have a heart attack watching just hearing him do a Stan Lee impression. I was straight up dying listening to him. Oh, rest in peace, Mike. You're missed, man. I will always miss you. You're my friend, and I love you. I miss you already. I've already listed so much stuff with you attached, and I'm glad we have your channel so we can always hear you for the rest of our lives. Thank you, Tom.
That's great. That's a great way to put it, Nick. And thank you so much, guys. And thank you all out there in the chat for being here, not just today, but through all this. Let's get some C's in the chat for Clobby, and let's get the show on the road. Now, let's see what you guys are saying out there real quick, and then we'll get into the topics at hand. We got Waltman sending in $1.99. Thank you for that, and says, take your time, guys. Well, we did, and I want to thank you all for allowing us that. And then we got Greg here, who sends in a member milestone for 17 months. Thank you, Greg. And Jason Webster sends in an Australian 10 and says, rip Clobby. Every episode of MEAD I've listened to, of which he was a member of the panel. He was exemplary panelist. You guys and his family and friends, my condolences. Well, thank you, Jason, and thank all of you again. So I know he would not want us to dwell on the sad times. He just wants us to dwell on the good times. And what really sucks is I think Clobby would have really been interested in our first topic today, because this just dropped on us, although it had been announced before to very little fanfare. But we've got a brand new Watchmen coming in. What this is an animated Watchmen. Now we got a teaser here from Warner Brothers. We'll probably get nailed for this, so if you guys are watching this on the replay, it'll probably be edited out. But either way, I'm sure half the panel hasn't seen this yet, and you guys out there may not have seen this yet. So this is what's
Watchmen
coming.
is my favorite book of all time.
I know, yeah. And the funny thing is, before we go into this, I think Clobby would have been like, well, maybe I'll actually have a chance of getting a Watchmen that doesn't suck. So here we go.
I can hear him now.
Picking off costumed heroes. Maybe this was a political killing. No. Somebody knows why. There is good and there is evil, and evil must be punished. I do not do this thing because it is permitted. I do it because I have to.
All right, so
Mikey,
yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. I'm not a big fan of that 3D meets 2D kind of animation, but it doesn't look too horrible here. What do you guys think, Price?
Looks all right, I guess. I'm not
Bryce,
a huge.
can I get a little bit of excitement?
I mean, I'm not a huge Watchmen fan to begin with. So I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
It looks
that
all
makes
right,
sense.
I guess.
Because yeah, as a Watchmen
How many
fan,
times
I'm
have
going,
you read The Watchmen, Price?
I've only seen that Zack Snyder movie.
Oh, for God's sake!
I'm really sorry.
oh,
Bryce.
then you
Bryce,
have not experienced Watchmen at all.
That's your P.O. box, and I'm gonna
I've
ship
only
you a
seen that
copy.
stupid movie. It wasn't probably his
The
best
movie is like a footnote version of the book in a way.
The correct answer was Mexican Iron Man. I've read the Watchmen graphic novel, which is not even a comic book. The Watchmen graphic novel.
It was a comic book first.
Over 20 times was the correct answer, Mr. Reason Pricer. Oh. I think I'm going to have a headache.
What am I gonna do? I'll try to read it.
How
then.
could
What
you
am I
do
gonna
that
do?
amazing Doctor Who video, which, by the way, was a great video, and I am a Whovian. By the way, that was great, yeah. How could you go from that to, I saw Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
Okay, well, you don't even really have to read the comic. There's an amazing motion comic out there that's not too bad.
Okay.
So this to me is kind of like the next level of that, and I hope because that thing, let me put it to you this way. That's like a direct 1-for-1 adaptation of the comic, and the sumbitch runs like 8 hours long. So
Okay.
that tells you everything. Even Zach had to kind of like remove some shit, and then he adds all that slow-mo. It's like, dude.
You know, honestly, that's probably his best movie. The Watchmen is probably Zack Snyder's best movie.
It is. But it's because he had a really strong
source material.
Something to work from, source material to work from. Yeah.
Zack Snyder's
All right.
best
I
hit was
apologize,
bullshit.
Mike. I'm going to try to read this and do something and not just
No, The
say,
Watchmen is my favorite comic as well as far as graphic novels go.
The only problem, though, is that reading it today, Price, how old are you, broadly speaking?
Probably around Tom's age.
There's a lot of references in there that are very 80s.
Mid
heavy.
80s was the comic. It was
Yeah.
86 through 88 or
Yeah.
8. Yeah, it was 86.
Yeah, 'cause they don't-
It started off as
I
a
don't-
monthly, and then it got collected into format, and it was only supposed to be printed once for trade, paperback, hardcover, and that's one of the many issues that Alan Moore himself had with DC, because they told him one thing and he ended up saying another. He ended up saying that they kept reprinting it, and he didn't like that, and that's one of the many issues that he had a falling out with the industry. Like I said, there's more, and I'm giving you a more condensed take on it.
Yeah.
But that
I'm
was a
okay
big
with the
deep
80s.
reference.
I'm okay with the
Oh,
80s
rip off
references.
of
I'll be fine.
Basically, what it is it's if the Cold War hadn't ended,
Mhm.
this is like an alternate universe kind of thing, and not only that, it's an alternate universe where superheroes exist.
Okay, back to the trailer. I'm excited. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be great.
All right, so Mikey's excited. Price is going to have to do some homework. Nick,
Yes.
what did you think?
You know, I'm going to lead off with this. Now, this is something where me and Clubby, we had an absolute agreement on the Watchmen movie. Didn't watch the HBO show. I like the comic. I don't love it as much as everyone else does, but I do like it. It's a good comic, and I have read it before. Of course, I have, and I will definitely go back to it again, especially for Dave Gibbons' amazing art. And as far as the show going, I actually, you know what, I'm gonna have a really unpopular take, but I actually like the animation on here. I actually like it. I don't like thinking I'm like over the moon about it, but if I had to give a 1 out of 10 ranking of the animation, I'd probably go with actually even a very optimistic 7.5. I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, we don't have a lot of details as far as story goes, but as far as what we're given off the embodiment of a teaser, I'm actually kind of optimistic for it, and I definitely would like to watch this when this come out and give it a fair crack.
Yeah, and I will agree. You know, Jackie Earle Haley was probably the best part of the movie. That's for sure.
I can agree on that. I
Yeah.
can agree on that.
So, CC, are you a Watchmen fan?
Like Price, I'm not. I might be if I read it. Okay, so I don't have that knowledge. But going from the trailer and just my general position on things, and my more extensive history with anime, the kind of adaptation that I prefer is one that is true to the source material, panel for panel. I don't really like changes. And some of my favorite animes are I'll read the manga and then I will see how they were able to translate every panel like a storyboard directly onto the screen. Now, this is a very short trailer. I think even if I had read the source material in this case, it wouldn't tell me enough to know exactly where this is going to go. But in that, it also is not turning me away from it, right? So I'm aware of it now. I'm interested in it. I want to see more. I want to know where they're going with it. And I also kind of agree with Nick. Like I prefer old school hand drawn animation. I prefer when a real person is drawing every frame. I know that's very expensive and difficult when you can get a computer to do it for you. I've said this before. I'm not really a fan of the
but I agree with
sterility
you on
of
that.
computer animation, but it doesn't look bad. It looks good. So we'll see, right? I mean,
I agree. I've seen worse 3D meets 2D shading animation before. I mean,
Oh wait, dude, look at what's that Marvel show? What If? Now that was horrendous to look at. I couldn't finish that. This I actually look like I'm optimistic for.
This looks more like actual 2D stuff made 3D without the, I don't know how to put it, like the jankiness or whatever of the. See, because this stuff looks great. This looks like it's right out of the comic.
See, that's what I
Almost.
like about these right here. These look more like it. They look the way it's angled. It feels like as if it's going by the flow of like a panel of a comic, kind of like when you watch the way Punisher Warzone flows, the way that movie flows, the way every shot is laid out in the movie. It looks like a comic panel, and that tells me when I see that someone's going to the source material for point of reference, and they're trying to acknowledge that, hey, this is where this came from. And this is why this story exists because of that. And the fact that I'm at least seeing that, that's why I'm actually kind of optimistic about this trip, because that's, to me, that should be standard. You don't have to have been a fan to have adapted these things, but if you're someone who goes in and says, okay, you know what, I don't know anything about this property, but I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to give it my absolute best, I could at least give someone a genuine fair crack when they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get much, like CC said here. This is just a 40-second, teaser. But what we got here looks fairly, like they're sticking with the book, pretty close. Now we don't know how long these parts are going to be. I've tried to find some info on this. There's very little out there. There was like the announcement from a while back, and that was it. And it was like really under the radar kind of announcement. I think a few people did some YouTube videos about it and stuff, but this is the first that kind of came to my attention, and I usually hear about just about everything that comes across, But no, I hope it's good. I hope they actually adapt it as close as possible. I mean, there's a few things you can still probably get rid of, and you're not going to mess with the flow of the story. I mean, that's one thing I will give Zack Snyder or the studio, whoever came up with the idea. Like, I love the the whole pirate ship story, the Black Sail or whatever, that's in the director's cut that's from the book, but you don't need it. It just kind of bogs down the time, and it kind of takes away from everything else. So like that's something they can excise and get rid of right away, is that whole thing. There's a few bits and pieces here and there you could probably trim down, or Black Freighter, that's what it was. Thank you. The Black Freighter, Tales of the Black Freighter. They can get rid of that. They don't need it. We already have an animated version of that. So, I mean, yeah. As I said, Knob, I just didn't. I completely missed the announcement for it, but it was announced a while back, as I found in my research. But obviously, because we're just getting a teaser trailer now, so it's not like it's brand new. But yeah, I guess it's coming to video on demand, and I would imagine probably HBO Max and stuff. But some other things that people brought up that I thought was interesting, and I'm curious about, because as we see, Paramount is part of this still, which they were part of the Zack Snyder one, because I think they own part of the property, because they were going to make a movie of it at one time, but ultimately DC owns it. So there's some people bringing up that this might be a rights retention thing, and this is where I really wish Klobby was here, but maybe Nick, you know a thing or two about this, because like that's the whole like point of contention with Alan Moore and stuff, right? Is like they keep reprinting it and keep
he was
doing adaptations, and isn't that like impeding like anybody else getting? It's like a rights retainer at this point, or what's going on?
As far as where the exact rights are, how that worked, I don't know all that, but I do know Alan was not happy with the fact that they kept reprinting because he was told differently. And I know I think it was right when Dan Didio and Jim Lee became publishers of DC, that Jim Lee actually reached out to try to make amends with Alan Moore about this whole situation. And even though I'm not a fan of how Jim Lee as a leader is now, but at the time I do give him credit for trying to reach out to Alan Moore to try to make amends on this whole situation, because I think he was trying to like reach a deal where they could give him like a lot more money for them to print this going forward. But Alan said the reason why he rejected Jim Lee's deal is nothing against Jim Lee, because he said the damage is too late. The time has just been too far in between. Like there's a reason why when you look at if you look at the credits for the movie, or from what I hear about the show, apparently it's the same as the show, there is not a whole lot mentioned about Alan Moore, but you'll see an emphasis on Dave Gibbons, because obviously Dave Gibbons was the penciler. So Dave kind of ate up a lot more of the credit, which, you know, I get it. And our stuff, he does deserve more credit, especially nowadays. We're in a time and age where we still have problems getting crediting correct for a lot of writers, artists, inkers, etc. So to a point, I get why Dave is kind of eating up, but it would have been also nice if he had kind of like stand in footstep with Alan. But
well, I've heard stories where
Alan's crazy, but
I've heard stories
on this.
Have you heard this shit too? I don't know if it's true or not, but where Alan has actually like sent his checks back from Warner Brothers and shit at times where he has not cashed any of them. Yeah.
No,
because they've literally sent him millions of dollars for all the rights stuff, but he just keeps sending them back and stuff, I guess, or something like that. But yeah,
he not only was he hating the money, he was hating who the money is from.
Yeah, that's my understanding too.
This is once again, this is before Jim Lee and Dan.
Right.
But it was one of the previous regimes.
I know it had something to do with the original deal, but like, so I figured out how Paramount's involved in this real quick. So back in 2004, I guess Paramount picked up the rights because they were going to make a version of it with Darren Aronofsky, and that fell apart. Because actually, if you guys know, this movie they were trying to make a Watchmen movie since way back in the early 90s or whatever.
Oh,
it was.
Yeah, they were trying way
because even it was like Terry Gilliam, I think, was involved at one point. I'm trying to remember who else was in between there, but then so Aronofsky would have been the one who probably got the version that Snyder got off the ground involved in the first place, because Paramount then now owns 25% of the film in the US, and they own distribution outside of the US, so that's why they're involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that, so like this is something the Watchmen series has a history of like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
probably a whole documentary you could make just on the
You
like,
beat me to it.
like
Yeah,
on all the
there is.
failed versions that never came to be. Yeah.
I wish there was a documentary, not just on the controversy with Alan Moore falling out of the comic, but also the issues with the adaptations and the
Right.
fact that DC went ahead and made the Before Watchmen comic, which he did not approve as well. He also didn't want any of his, this is not exclusive to Watchmen, but you talk about any project that had his name on it, he never wanted a single one adapted to any other medium. So he was primarily through and through a comics writer. So I was like, once again, I do respect his convictions on that. I do respect that he was that like adamant about it. So it would be a great documentary to talk about the history about it, because the history of around the comic is just as interesting.
There you
as
go.
the
There's a
comic itself.
documentary. Call it
Yeah,
Who
right?
Watches the Watchmen.
Yeah, that would be what it's called, because even when Moore and Gibbons comic took off, I mean, once again, we all know he's crazy, but still, credit where it's due, even to Alan. He didn't like that the deconstruction model of his comic became the standard for a lot of comics going forward. That was just him trying to tell a story that felt right to him at that moment in time. Like him, and that's something him and Gibbons were very mutual on, because that's why Gibbons was trying to make sure he did more upbeat, optimistic stories, because they were just trying to write a story for that time, not have it be the standard going forward. And that drove them both crazy, because that actually wasn't their style. I mean, Alan Moore actually did a good Superman story too. I mean, some of you can't imagine. I get that, but he did, and that's something me and Klobby spoke very fondly of, was his Superman stuff he did. So he may be, once again, he's psycho, but man, if he needs to write Superman the right way, unlike Zack Snyder, Alan Moore could actually do it. So I could forgive a little crazy when you write a character like Superman correctly.
Yeah. And it looks like you guys are liking the title for the documentary, Who Watches the Watchmen. So yeah, maybe we'll have to see what we can do about that.
Yeah.
And we have a script doctor joining us. I don't know if you have watched the Watchmen teaser or not, but that's what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah. Sorry I'm late. I was on my way home, and apparently in the last 3 hours, they put up a huge construction crew between my house and where I was coming from. So I had to detour all the way around town.
Also, that means it'll take them about 6 weeks to finish.
6 years.
Yeah, whatever. You know, that's what I love about
Toronto
construction
we're
crews.
talking about.
They pop up like a weed and like out of nowhere, and then like for 6 weeks you're dealing with them, or 6 months, or 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like whatever. It's like it's like, do they actually do any work, or are they just standing around and thinking about it?
I've only ever seen them stand around and think about it.
I know, right? Well, this is a funny story, real quick, because you might be able to relate to this. The governor for my state is actually from a town not far from where I grew up. So they were having some ceremony where he was coming in. So they started construction on the whole main drag of the town in the beginning of the summer. And it felt like nothing was getting done. Like we were driving over all sorts of dirt roads and driving through all kinds of detours and shit all summer long. And then 2 weeks before he shows up, all of a sudden it was like work started and everything was done within 2 weeks. It was like, how come it took him all summer? And then 2 weeks before he shows up, everything was done. That does not make sense. So that's where we decided, yeah, they spent all summer just sitting around talking about what they were going to do, in the last 2 weeks actually doing it.
I think you just summed up Chicago traffic. Oh, sorry, not traffic, construction. I always made the joke that if Chicago could rebrand its flag, it would be a construction cone with snow coming down on it, because it's
somebody
true.
shooting at them
No
too.
construction. The two, yeah, and with bullets in the background with snow coming down on the construction.
But all right, so yeah, script.
The fact that, I relate to that. When I was living in Etobicoke many years ago,
Yeah.
there's this road called Royal York, and every summer it'd be repaved, but there was never anything wrong with it. And that's when I quickly learned that, a lot of the contractors are just buddy with the government that pays them to basically sit around and do nothing and collect a whole bunch of money for as little work as possible. But ironically, a buddy of mine who does have his own private construction company, when he was working during the pandemic, he repaved like 30 roads in our neighborhood within like 2 months, because nobody's on there, and he did it all quickly. And the worst part is that he wasn't friends with anyone in the government that got the contract. He was just the only one that was able to abide by the rules. And as soon as the pandemic lifted, nobody's hiring him, because he gets stuff done on time. He doesn't like to waste time, and he does a bunch of private stuff for private citizens and whatnot. But it's basically, yes, it's true. The government doesn't build roads. They hire their friends that are contractors to pretend to build roads. So it's like that all over the place.
Yeah, that
But,
makes sense. Yeah.
with regards to the Watchmen trailer, I saw it. I remember this was announced just after the Lindelof series ended, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I guess it kind of completely went under my radar, but in my research when seeing this today, yeah, that's about the time it looks like it got announced.
And I will say this: it looks kind of like slightly upgraded from the What If animation, in my opinion. It's still a 3D model trying to pose as a 2D stuff. I mean, it might be okay. This is like what, the third adaptation of the Watchmen, essentially.
Technically, the
Yeah,
second,
third.
if you don't count the
Second HBO show, because let's not forget the HBO show took place after.
yeah, it's
Sequel
actually
of the
not an
comic.
No,
adaptation.
it's a sequel,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess you're right. It would be the second.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was done already put in the works before Zaslav got there, so we'll get to see how.
I'm just hoping it's a straight adaptation
It'd be
for the
nice.
most part. And like I said, there's a few things you could chop out to get it down to like a 4 or 5 hour, because I'm sure they're splitting it up probably into 2-hour movies, I'd imagine. So that's what it looks like, possibly. I have no idea otherwise. This is, like I said, like there's nothing out there about this. Warner Brothers didn't even drop this trailer on their website yet. On the website when I went looking for it earlier. They may have now in between the time, but I had to rip it from Twitter because I couldn't find it on their fucking website, on their YouTube site.
Well,
So they're
that's
like,
As
lots
Script
of numbers.
Script has commented regularly on the lack of the ability of Hollywood, specifically that company, in terms of marketing.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Script?
No,
Yeah,
marketing doesn't know what they're doing at all.
I'm gonna say, let me see now if it's posted yet. Oh. Let's see here.
Like they were too busy going to a rooftop pool party to remember, right?
Yeah.
Or a yacht party.
Yacht party on Malibu.
There's also the Velvet Underground.
Oh, there was a
Club.
Horizon trailer yesterday I missed, but yeah. They got a different Watchers thing. The Watchers, that's the Night Shyamalan thing.
That's
yeah,
the
Warner Brothers
Shyamalan
hasn't.
daughters thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they posted it. No, they have not posted it yet. What the hell, guys? Get on the ball. What are you doing?
There might be different reasons. Maybe this is something that Zaslav doesn't like and he doesn't want to advertise.
Maybe, I guess. I don't see what's wrong with it.
You guys
Yeah,
don't even know if there's like a pool party that's more important than this.
That's true. There probably is. But since we got you here, Mike, speaking of pool parties, I wanted to bring this up real quick. Disney stock is not looking too good right now. Dang it, Bob!
Nice. Almost back under 100.
I like how there's that little spike. It was under 100 earlier today. I got
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because it actually dipped down below. Go ahead.
Dipped down into the 99s, and obviously someone's stop orders clicked in, and that shot it back to 100. Someone's stop margin orders clicked in, and so that's probably that's almost assuredly that spike. I mean, look, Bob needs to come out and remind everybody that, Tom, at Disney, we're a storytelling company, and what we do is we tell great stories. The stories we tell are iconic, and within those iconic brands, we tell stories. And that's why today, Mexican Bob Iger is proud to announce our new initiative. It's called the Storytelling Initiative. Did the stock jump, guys? No? Yes? Okay. This storytelling initiative is going to be in gaming. Call Fortnite. And we're going to launch it. All right. Big announcement over. Continue with the show. No, the problem here is that besides Nelson Peltz losing, time, the element of time is not working in Bob's favor. As we have discussed on this show, and I've discussed many other shows, even though I'm not a YouTuber, time is not on Bob Iger's side. While Script has done a meticulous job, in my opinion, I'm about to give you a big compliment, Script. While Script has done a meticulous job of dealing with my frustration and reminding me that Hollywood is a Titanic ship that takes forever to correct, and he's documented that some places have corrected, and we've seen that, Sony and other places. Disney has not, and time is not on their side. They hold on to this. They are going to continue. I mean, look at what we've seen. We have seen major things happening. I mean, that Forbes Fortune article, whenever that came out, it is now public that Disney studios are failing. The theme parks, including its newest attraction, has failed. And from a real estate standpoint, the Star Cruiser itself has failed. Over $1 billion hotel. So whether it be real estate and entertainment related to vacation getaways, whether it be what should be a creative strength, which is their theme parks, or whether it be the ridiculous creative releases that they've had in the studios, Disney is failing on all levels. And don't even get us started on the Marvel and Lucasfilm Islands in the Sea. Although at least in Marvel, I think there's been enough news recently that's hinted that they're course correcting that script predicted, I believe, over a year ago.
Well, maybe.
Maybe,
There's some turmoil. We're going to talk
who
about
knows?
that in just a second. Actually, that kind of segues nicely into our next story.
This company is a look. I've got a bunch of shares at 5. I'm so upside down on this stock. I'm so upside down on the stock, and at this point, I think I don't even know what to do. Do I sell at the massive loss that I'm currently at, which is just sucks, or because then I'm stuck with the tax burden of not being able to write off more than $3,000 a year for God knows eternity.
You might as well ride it until it goes back up again real quick, and then.
Well,
sell.
I don't know. I mean, what I did last
I
time is
know.
I bought 200 shares at 78. And so now my average right now, I looked the other day, my average, I'm at 148.50, I think, or 148.50 something and change. So I'm basically at 150 if we round up. That's my average basis. And that's,
I'd wait for a day in the. Okay, here's you got a hopeful.
so if I keep buying while it's down, my average basis keeps going down. But it's like I'd have to keep buying, hoping that it ever comes up. And I'm going to go with Script Doctor. The true value of this price of this stock, if I were to compare this against what I don't know how we would even classify their competitors between theme parks and studios, but let's just go with Comcast for now. Script's right. This stock does not belong north of $30 to $35 a share. It just mathematically
not. No.
Huh? It mathematically has no business being about $30, $35 a share. And with what's happened with the Acolyte, Disney Plus has been a massive failure. It will be masked as not a failure, but in the end, it's going to become another .com massive failure. I predict that Disney Plus is going to be the AOL, the AOL of streaming services.
It probably will be.
It's going to be the America Online of streaming services, because when I look at streaming services, frankly, I'm more likely to turn on Paramount. I mean, I guess I'm going to start turning on my HBO, Max, because House of the Dragon's coming out. I'm going to watch that. Man, this thing sucks. Hollywood fucked this whole thing up. Everything's just fucked. But you know what?
Yes, they did.
I'm not giving. Sorry, I'll go ahead.
I guess at this point, I'm either writing this thing down to hell, or at some point I've just got to sell it and take the loss, which really sucks because the IRS only lets you write off $3,000 a year for your losses, and I'm way below.
Well, I was going to say that, or wait till after this weekend and sell it when it goes back up again. But you know what you're doing, and I don't. So
no, I clearly don't, because my basis is 150 and this is at 100. So I clearly don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, maybe, but that being said,
in a couple of years, those streaming services are going to be bundled together in a third-party service provider. What's his name over at Warner Brothers, who's part of the HBO Max and unscripted content, is basically saying that they're brokering deals right now, not just with Disney Plus Hulu, but they're also looking to explore stuff with Peacock, Paramount Plus, because essentially the streaming wars are over. We're now in the Cold War, which is basically how is the most effective way to deliver these to all the customers. And they're leading mostly into live sports and live events and unscripted productions, primarily for streaming. And it looks like they're going to go with network, HBO, to be heavily scripted along with theaters of stuff of that nature. So you're going to get a handful of prestige scripted shows on streaming, but it's mostly going to be terrestrial television cable. And that looks like it's going to be the model in the coming years. So your streaming will be all your live events,
right,
and your reality TV.
I was just going to say, I'm not giving any advice here, Mike, but you bought at an unrealistically high price under any circumstances, right? So you can't ever win on this. But if you're not starving and you can hold on to it for 20 or 30 years,
I was going to say a few weeks or
What
months.
a dick.
I don't know about that.
No, I think we're talking decades here.
You're
For-
like-
I was just gonna say
Inflation
earlier,
makes it into a profitable
You
set.
might get lucky and Inside Out does really well this weekend, but I wouldn't count.
I thought you Canadians were supposed to be sweet and civil. What the hell? Script hit him for me.
Well, we're actually not very nice. We are.
I don't
very
think he's
funny.
allowed to. I think
Golly, G-Mike.
Jason Webster on the Star Wars front of Disney says, well, it's conclusive. The Acolyte is shit. Stupefying, hideous, insane, inane tripe. Yes, I have not seen much of it, but what I have seen of it makes me laugh uncontrollably at how bad it is.
Mikey, why didn't you sell it when Nelson Pelt sold it?
We didn't know about that until
Because
2
I was
months
still
after the
upside
fact.
down, and I was still upside down, and I was hoping he would win and it would go up. I'm averaging at near 150. He sold at 125.
Yeah. We also
Sometimes
didn't
you
know about
gotta
him
cut your
selling it until
losses.
we also didn't know about him selling it though until 2 months after the fact, right? It had already took a nosedive after that.
Well, it took a nosedive when he sold it. We just didn't know how it.
Well, it did,
that
but
was the reason.
he at least got out before it was a loss, was the point.
No,
Yeah.
he's the reason it was a loss because he took out $1 billion. That's why it went down. That's what we found out a few months later.
Oh, either way, yeah.
He
Just
knew that
so-
he lost the vote thing, and he just
Yeah,
dumped
that's
the
what I
stock,
mean. Like
and
he's like, yeah.
it's actually pretty brilliant, to be honest.
Well, and I speculated if anything, if he does come back, he's not going to be coming back with the capital of
You know what Price was about to say? He's like, that's actually pretty brilliant. And you cut him off, but what he was about to say is compared to what Mikey does.
No, Mikey, I understand your position, but sometimes you got to cut your losses. What can you do? It's going to be a long time until they get back to where you bought it.
Yeah.
This is not a safe space. This is hurtful.
Well, I think if he comes back, it's not going to be with any other people's money. It's going to be his own money. That's what I think. That was my speculation. And that's where I think he'll get, like, if he comes back, if this dips down, because we were just talking about this on Pros earlier, like if it dips down below a certain point, him and Elon and maybe some other people will get involved, and then they'll come back with a proxy war that's even more hardcore. Because I don't think he wants to play with other people's money. I think that's why he dumped it this time and cut and run, because he's like, all right, I'm not getting the vote this time, so I'm not going to be playing with that anymore. We're going to get this company out of involved with this situation because they're a sinking ship. We all know it. We all see it. He saw it, obvious as can be. But if he's going to take another fight to him, if he comes back, I think it's going to be a personal fight this time. That's my point.
I was saying that before, right? Like, I mean, he bought at a price and he sold it at a higher price and he made money. And his resume now says that he made money.
Yeah,
which is what he's supposed to do.
That's what I
and
mean.
If it goes down again, then he can buy and make more money.
I look at it this way: it's like, okay, you're getting into a fight with somebody, and you got like a bunch of people backing you up, but you're like, this time out, you're like, no, I got to do this myself because I don't want any casualties that are not part of this fight, kind of thing. But anyway, that's just my observation on it. Dearest does point out that Price, you can get the Watchmen on in-stock trades. They have it for $6 in the digest form, or 12 back for the trade paperback form. I have the hardcover version.
I'll have to get something like that. Yeah, I mean, I apologize that my only reference was the Zack Snyder thing. I have a confession.
They're just giving you shit, Price.
I have another confession that once when it was on HBO, I pressed play and watched one episode, but I didn't understand what I was watching. It didn't seem like it was The Watchmen, so I didn't watch any more episodes of that HBO one.
Well, it's not really Watchmen, that's why.
It was some weird. I remember there was a lady in a car. Maybe there was a car accident, and there's some weirdos. And I'm like, this is sort of like Summer of Love 2020. But maybe I didn't understand it.
It starts in the Juneteenth shit, don't it, or whatever it was, or not?
Right,
Juneteenth,
right. I said to myself, this is some weird.
That's it, Tulsa Massacre. Thank you.
Somebody pushed some weird propaganda. I watched it for one episode, and I'm like, this is not. This is a complete propaganda piece, and I stopped watching. That was the only one that I watched, and it was so bad that I could barely tell you what it was about, except for that it had something to do, that it had a Summer of Love flavor to it.
Well, I think it's kind of a prequel / sequel series, wasn't it, of sorts?
I'd never watched it. I
didn't either, but I think it had, because it started in like the 60s or something like that, and then jumps forward or whatever. But like, yeah,
there was something about some people in the car, and I think there were
sub stories. Okay,
yeah, there were
African Americans in a car or something. I don't know.
That's irrelevant, Price. You're talking gibberish right now.
What'd you say?
You're talking gibberish right now because that's what the show episode was. It was gibberish.
Yeah. I didn't watch it. I didn't want to watch it. But speaking of gibberish, at this point, speaking of Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, all this shit, Blade director walked away. No surprise here, especially Marash Ali is now shooting Jurassic World 7.
I don't know if that movie's ever going to get made, and I think
I
it
don't
shouldn't
think
at
it
this
is.
point.
I don't think it is, at least not in the form with Marash Ali. I think he walked.
Maybe the director's not black enough.
Sadly, that doesn't sound out of the realm of possibility.
Well, I think it was either
that part I
script
believe
or one
that.
of us on the show, like last week or whatever, speculated that, yeah, this was probably going to happen when we were hearing rumors. Because I had been hearing rumors that Marash Ali is gone. And then he went and took the Jurassic Park role. And they just started shooting it. Like, they're fast tracking this Jurassic World movie.
They haven't just started shooting it. They've almost wrapped. They've been shooting it
Really?
for a while.
Okay,
yeah.
so he's probably just a small part in it, perhaps. That's why. But, like,
No,
yeah,
he
it was
probably
like just
walked
boom,
months
boom,
ago, and
boom.
then he
There
probably
you go.
walked
That's
months
true.
ago. Because again, remember the trades aren't instantaneous when it comes to Hollywood news. They sit on stuff for weeks because they need confirmation. Number one, no one has left, and number two, that yes, it's in production. We just added these characters, these cast members to the story. They've already done their role. They've gone home. They've cashed their check. They're looking for something else long before you ever hear about it in the trades. That is the standard operating procedure. This director, Yann Demange, he probably left last year, and they're just finding out about it or releasing it now.
Well, there was something. Let me see if I can find it here. Somebody had reported about the Jurassic World stuff starting, or at least they were shooting today. At least Marash Ali was starting his shooting today. Anyway, let's see if I can find it.
I
Here.
think Scarlett Johansson wrapped her stuff already.
She may have, yeah. I think that's what it also said too.
I thought Scarlett's supposed to be the new Chris Pratt of the series.
She basically is. That's where I was speculating that maybe Marasha's character is not a very big one in the movie, but I'm not. It's not here under the person I thought who originally put it out. I'm trying to see if I can find it again. But anyway, it's not that fucking
why
important.
they're making another movie. I know some people I even have friends that like this franchise, but how many times can you bring those dinosaurs to that park?
Oh, you want to know why they're making another movie? John Talks put out a post why they're making another one of those movies. Because they make fucking bank. Because kids love dinosaurs, Price.
Yeah.
You and I and everybody on this panel will agree with you that none of those movies are that good besides maybe the second one. And that's even
the first one from Steven Spielberg was good.
No, I know. I mean, so as far as the sequels, I'm talking.
Oh, the sequels, yeah.
But they make bank, right? Even after
That's
the
true.
worst one in the franchise with part 5, where it's all in a mansion, people still showed up for the last one.
That's true. That's true. They still make
Dinosaurs.
money. I can't take that
Dinosaurs.
away.
Well, not
still
only
make
that, they were
money.
smart and brought back the OG cast. I think that's what helped.
Oh,
And they
that
made sure in the
definitely
trailer to
does.
show us that the OG cast was actually going to be on screen together.
Even if they were barely, like, their role was honestly kind of meaningless because I didn't see it finally until recently. You could have
Yeah,
honestly taken them out of the movie and they would have not affected it. But no, it definitely worked. It put the butts in
It's
the
the
seats.
least
Go see
most
them.
harmless of the fucking
Oh,
sequels.
yeah.
That's the way I put it. Well, how did I say that? Least harmless of all the sequels. That's what I meant. Yeah.
No, I got you, Tom.
Besides maybe 2, which I will debate with people because yes, I will agree that most of part 2 sucks, but I love that last 20, 30 minutes of the movie. So I can't hate on Lost World.
I'd have to read.
Well, that's where the T-Rex is running rage wild in fucking San Diego. I fucking love that shit. He eats the dog and shit.
I'd have to rewatch it.
That's
I
my
forgot
inner
about the
Godzilla
movie.
fan going like, yes, go T-Rex. That was the redeeming value of that film. But no, okay, so back to the actual story here. What is the big deal here? Well, we knew they were doing a new writing team about a few months back. So script, you're probably right. That's probably when these guys all walked away. I think that's when we were speculating this shit then.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember how many weeks ago that was. At least probably 4 to 6 weeks back. They still claim that Marash Ali is attached to Star, but I have a feeling we're going to hear he's not anymore. Because I've been hearing rumors about that he walked. So that has not been confirmed yet, but it is confirmed now that Yann Demange has left. He's best known for shows like Lovecraft Country and Top Boy.
Which nobody gives a rat's ass about. But
I've heard of Lovecraft Country, but that's it. Yeah.
Nobody really does know those things. That's the problem, though.
And did they
That's why
replace him with anybody else? Was it there's now Denise?
Well, I'll give them this much. This is a better choice to give somebody something like this because Lovecraft Country at least is in a vein, unlike a fucking documentary director doing Eternals or some shit.
Well, I mean, that director has also done 3 animated feature films. So considering the fact that Disney Marvel is mostly animated, it's pretending to be live action. It's not necessarily outside of her wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's sad that this guy didn't get a chance to direct this, but at least this time I'll give Disney or Marvel credit that they picked somebody who wasn't completely out of their league for this. This makes sense. This is somebody getting a graduating, movie, but they're walked away from it now. They must not have whatever they decided. And this is where I'm not so sure Marasha is going to stick around either, because I think these guys were kind of a package deal. Isn't that usually somewhat the case in Hollywood 9 times out of 10? Not every
Marasha
time,
came
but
in first, and then this director came in.
Did
after.
he? Okay, I wasn't sure, but
he
yeah.
came in way late into the game because another director.
Well, that's right. Aren't we like 2 directors deep now? You're right.
Yeah,
This is
at
the
least
third
2.
one.
It's been so long, I don't even remember anymore.
If I'm Mahershala, I just feel like I just walk just because it just seems like this thing is going in a really bad direction. You don't like being part of a movie that they keep changing the script. Nobody knows what's going on. There's no direction. There's no leadership. At the end, somebody. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry. No, finish. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying like at the end, you probably think to yourself, why am I here? Why don't I just go do something else?
Well, not just that. Like what I was going to say was, it's not like Blade is fucking rocket science.
No,
Like of all the fucking things Marvel has to make, Blade has got to be one of the easiest things to do. Like even budget wise, right? Like they had to go out of their way to fuck up Blade 3.
That was David S. Goyer.
That was David S. Goyer, exactly.
Like,
Trying to do too much shit in a fucking movie. Yeah. And adding too many goddamn characters that nobody gives a shit about.
Have an evil head vampire trying to do something, then Blade has to stop it. That's your basic plot structure. Throw in a love interest in some regard, whether it's a brotherly love, like not like a platonic brotherly love, an actual female love interest, or parental stuff, which they're trying to do with the Blade daughter thing. You can make it work without taking away what makes Blade Blade. And then the other part too is, again, you can make it vampire violence is very easy to get away with. All you have to do is restrain the stupid F-bombs that peppered throughout the entire Blade trilogy, trying to make it edgy when it was actually really lame. Like so silly. Wesley Snipes.
Well, I've made that argument before too. Like, and because people get this knee-jerk reaction when it comes to Blade. Like, I can understand Punisher. There's no real way of getting around the Punisher without making it R-rated. But Blade, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Script, you take each and every one of those first 3 Blade films, cut out the F words, PG-13, no problem.
I agree strongly with you.
Yeah, and the nudity. There's a little bit of nudity, I think, in the first movie, but yeah.
It's a blink and you miss it though. That's the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, if you just take out the F words, it's PG-13 because script's right. If it's robots, if it's zombies, if it's fucking vampires, monsters, you can do whatever the fuck you want to them, and the MPAA will just say PG-13 all day.
You can put PG-13. Not only can you do the same kills, you can do that thing where you he may have sliced someone's half, and maybe they don't show it, but maybe like the blood gets on his body, stuff like that, or you can see the blood splatter
Honestly,
on the wall,
Nick,
do stuff like that.
Them.
I was gonna say, actually, the blood thing is the problem, Nick. You can actually show him cut a vampire in half, but like Script just said, just have him go poof into dust.
Or that too, yeah.
The blood, that's why I was kind of like, whoa, when they had all the blood splatter in the beginning of Hawkeye. I'm like, you tell me they can't do a Blade now without getting away with it being PG-13-esque? Because, hey, I mean, there's some blood splatter, because that's the thing. They're more worried about blood splatter. Like, that's why they don't mind aliens, monsters, and that stuff, because 9 times out of 10, it's either black blood or green blood or whatever, something else that's not red. It's just they don't like the red blood splatter and stuff like that. Because there was even, I'm trying to remember the movie. Either way, they were in an argument over the blood splatter. It wasn't the fact that the guy got shot point blank in the fucking head and all this other violence in the scene, but the MPAA was just, well, you can't have the blood splatter on the wall behind his head.
Oh, was that the Frighteners? And Jeffrey Combs?
I think it was the Frighteners, maybe something like that. I think you're right. I think it was the Frighteners. Yeah, because they tried as hard, because the movie was shot to be a PG-13 movie. because Peter Jackson has said up and down, you're right, that's it. Because he's like, if I'd have known I was going to get an R rating, I would have shot an R-rated fucking movie. Because he would have gone way farther than what they got in the movie. He thought he was reining it into a PG-13, and that's where it teetered on, was that fucking blood splatter. You're exactly right. That's the one with the damn buckshot. And they're like, nope, you can't have the splatter on the door behind him or whatever it was, on the wall or door or whatever it was.
But that was
And
like a beautifully transitioned shot too. Like you don't even realize what happened. But like here's the other thing too. So on streaming services, to your Hawkeye point, those streaming programs technically have no rating.
I think it was rated TVMA, but yeah, I think you're right.
But the thing is, because it's it's a pay for service, you're not actually supposed to adhere to the
same as
network.
cable, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, a little bit different. You don't technically have to adhere to cable network or FCC requirements, because you have a term of service when you sign up with that type of direct to consumer marketing platform. It's like paying for an R-rated ticket already. You get the full disclosure, you're in, you go. It's up to the discretion of the service provider to put those up there. And sometimes they do it just for, I mean, Disney does it primarily for the family part of the content. They want to make sure, is this for 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 16-year-olds, or is this more of the edgier stuff? I mean, they just put on the Saw franchise on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, I saw that.
That is definitely has a disclaimer.
How the hell? So they're licensing that from Lionsgate? What the fuck are they doing?
They're trying to get people to subscribe to Disney Plus.
That is so stupid.
The other part too is I think you can also access it through Hulu.
I think Tom, see, the thing is, you're approaching this from what should be on Disney Plus, and I think the point from where I sit that Script's trying to make is that the reality is that Disney Plus is in such bad shape. They are going to put whatever they can on it, when, where, and how they can, in order, with the hopes of that, not so much that it will adhere to a Disney brand, but they'll just get eyeballs on screen. Because right now, what that place needs is eyeballs on screen.
And they're already right now in retention. Tubi is doing better than Disney Plus right now. Numbers.
Well, it's free.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I'm wondering if it even matters who's directing the Blade movie, because the director's only going to, they're all director in name only. And the reason I'm thinking about that is because I'm thinking back to the original Jurassic Park, right? And I watched all the extras for that. And there you had Steven Spielberg. He was hands-on with everything. And the dinosaurs in that movie were animatronics, right? They built the dinosaurs, and then they used CGI to enhance the visuals on the dinosaurs they built. You're not going to do that. Like, the next Jurassic Park movie is they're not going to build any animatronics. Same way that Disney decided to take animatronics out of Splash Mountain and build a new ride that doesn't have a fraction of the detail work. Like, they're not putting any kind of detail into anything they put on Disney Plus. It's slopped together, and whoever you get the best director in the world, and how much impact are they even going to have on it if everything's kind of pre-produced like a McDonald's hamburger,
Well, when you can have a talented writer, director, producer, whatever, and it's going to go through several other hands of stages of development. So they don't even know how much of their vision is going to be put out there and how much of it will be their direct vision. Now, I'm not saying that you have to always adhere to a director. Sometimes even directors got to adjust to continuity when there's an actual continuity. But there's a problem if the director's trying to be genuine and respect lore continuity, and they can't even do that because everyone else is going to come in and, fuck their baby up. And what's the point of all that? That's something that's not being, once again, another thing that should be acknowledged when they have these meetings. Or even the fact that their biggest show on their streaming service is not even one of their own properties. It's something from BBC and Ludo. It's not a Disney Plus original.
Well, they've developed a reputation at this point, right? Where people who have sway go in and they maybe they are directing a show or a movie, and you're right, their vision does not translate to the screen because of all the middle men and women and like the 10, 15 different hands they have to go through, and they start telling their friends like, hey, this is not good for your career,
Yeah,
nobody wants to do it.
Creative. You can't even be genuine creative, even if you're trying to be someone who wants to be negotiable and come from a position of reason. You can't even be that, because whatever your most negotiable, genuine reason is going to get stopped on anyways. So what's the point?
Yeah. Let's see what the audience is talking about here. We got Jason Webster, who says Lucasfilm suffers from creative constipation known as the Acolyte. Root causes are Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, and Leslie Headland. If the four pains persist, I recommend Disney. Call a script doctor. No, you could do that.
No, first of all, as the owner of Script Doctor, because I am his American Envoy, Script will have his hands full at Warner Brothers and at Paramount. He is too busy for Disney. They're not going to value him anyways.
No.
Plus, I'd have to get his hair redone. I'd have to get him a Jerry. I'd have to put a Jerry curl on.
How do you look
head.
in purple?
I'd have to take him out for some sun tanning. We got to get him dark.
Oh
skin.
yeah, I definitely need a tan.
You need a tan, Script, and we need a Jerry curl. Then
there's not enough melanin.
Yeah, no, Script Doctor's too busy at Paramount, and no, he's
and Warner Brothers. Well, I got to expose Tom King in order to save Warner Brothers. So.
Exactly, and that's going to be a project in and of itself. Because when I go in with him to Warner Brothers, I might beat up Tom King myself, and then Script Doctor call 911.
I mean, I'll dial the wrong one and argue I'm a foreigner. I dialed 999. I thought that was emergency services. I'm sorry, I'm Canadian. And then that's what happens to Tom King. No, I've got a nice argument and speech all ready to go if I ever get that opportunity as to why you can get rid of Tom King and why he'll be dangerous to your company. But yeah, no, listen, whether or not, there's lots of writers that are actually working with and talking to studios like Disney, Warner Brothers, etc. It's up to the studio heads and those executives to listen to them. And that's your biggest problem in that area. Like, it's their choice. It's their property. They're the ones that pull the triggers on any idea or any pitch that goes forward. And if they're not, pulling the triggers on the right stuff, the audiences aren't going to get the things that they want. And even if we do get some of the good stuff out there, the audience is justifiably too gun shy to spend their money on it right away. They're going to wait. And when they figure it out, that's when you will see a nice little rise. But it's going to take a while. More people are going to be discovering, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Fall Guy, Furiosa, Bad Boys 4. They're going to be discovering those on streaming primarily and realize that movies are kind of coming back to what they're more comfortable in seeing and less agenda, propaganda driven stuff. It's going to take some time.
All right. And then we got Liquid Metal Rob, who says with £5 or £5, Acolyte currently has 3.9 out of 10 on IMDb, and now over 50% of the ratings are 1 out of 10, which is hilarious. Let's see if we can get it to 60% and 3 out of 10. Rip Clobby. Well, thank you for the Rip Clobby. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to encourage people to go and bomb anything, but if you saw it and that's how you feel about the show, rate it accordingly.
Yeah, that's got 37,000 ratings on IMDb already, so that's nothing to shake a stick at. So
no. And then Nikki D says with $5, why isn't Sony doing anything with Jump Street film franchise? I found those movies to be quite funny. Did they flop in the box office? No, I think actually they did. They were gonna do the Men in Black crossover one, and that fell apart. I think probably because Men in Black 4 failed at the box office, but now they're talking about, I heard rumor is Will Smith is basically, besides the I Am Legend thing, that he's also in talks to revive Men in Black as well. So on the Jump Street side of things, I think I'm sure that there's a plausibility we could get a third film at some point, especially now that Bad Boys 4 did well. I'm sure people at Sony are thinking about it, but that's going to probably come down to like Jonah Hill and his people.
Jonah Hill's kind of retiring from acting, and he's going to become a director right now. In fact, I saw him recently, and he looked like a 1980s porn star director. Like he's all haggard and thin, and he's got like gray beard and messy gray hair. Like he's really hit a wall age-wise. For a guy who's like relatively the same age as me, Channing Tatum is cheap now, so you could probably get him back, and he doesn't seem to have aged too much.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be the problem. That's why I brought up.
That's
why I think Jonah would be the issue. But yeah, otherwise, I think they feel like they probably left it on a good enough note. Otherwise, that they probably won't mess with it again. I mean, honestly, part of me wishes they wouldn't, because the first two are so good. It's like, if they do a part 3, it's no way it's going to be good as the first two. Like the second movie didn't even have a right to be as good as it was, and the first movie shouldn't have been any good.
They needed to make a third one immediately. If they would have made a third one after the two, maybe they could have pulled it off. But now the energy is different with these actors.
I agree. I think that's part of the problem too. I totally see where you're coming from, Price, because like again, with knowing because I knew some of that stuff about Jonah, but I didn't know he had gone into directing. That's news to me. But yeah, if that's the case, and they'd have to pay him a lot. And I don't know if they made that much money. I know they did okay.
They were profitable and sustainable because they're really cheap movies to make.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that worked is that they leaned into them being first self-aware, and second of all, to make fun of the concept more so than anything else, and the procedural.
Which shouldn't have worked. It shouldn't have worked. But just because 21 Jump Street was one of those ideas that only worked when it first came out, and there's no way anybody would buy it now, you're right. They played with the satirical element of, it's almost like it's like if they made a 21 Jump Street movie in the Gremlins 2 universe.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it, because it just only works this time and this time only. If maybe the Brady Bunch was the only other time I could think about it where they approached it this way,
Well,
where it fucking worked.
They approached the Brady Bunch satirically. They did the one thing that they did well with the 21 Jump Street franchise, which a lot of people have been arguing to do for other stuff, but they always refuse, is that they said, this is not a reboot. This is an official sequel. We're going to have Nick Offerman basically say, this is a sequel in movie form to the original series. And guess what? They brought back Johnny Depp and DeLuise. I can't remember which one of the kids.
For like 1 second, though, they only brought him.
Well, they brought him back for actually 2 scenes. And they did it for very, very cheap. Johnny Depp, I don't even think he really took a paycheck for it, because he was told he could actually like go on full makeup and do whatever he wanted. And they said, yeah, sure, go ahead. Whatever. We don't care.
I feel like I wanted to see more of them. They kind of didn't feature them enough.
No, because it wasn't their movie. That's the other part too. Like they
true.
wanted to make it a sequel, and the joke was some idiot up high up has decided to revive an old program that we at the police station used to do in the 80s as a desperate attempt to appease, the local constituency. And it's basically saying the studio just wanted to rehash an old IP to, placate the plans. And that's what won everybody over. They said, we are acknowledging what we're doing here. Let's just sit back and have fun. And then they actually told a compelling story between Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum becoming friends in the academy when they were both rivals, or at least one bullied the other in high school.
That's why the ending works so well with the cameos and everything. Like it just you're right. They did it brilliantly. And I argue, I don't know if it would work for every franchise to do it that way. I mean, some of these you could still do a sequel, but it'd have to be still taken seriously.
Yeah, some parts can take it seriously, but I mean, it was just the tongue-in-cheek acknowledgement that this is a very superficial thing we're doing.
Well, not just that. My whole point from the start was 21 Jump Street is built on this really loose ass idea that people would buy. These people going undercover in high schools. Yeah.
It's based off of a real program that happened in the early 80s.
It is. It is.
It didn't last long, but
yeah. That's my point. Is the show kind of took it as far as it could go with the dramatic elements of it, over to the point where it's almost melodramatic, obviously, at times. Like, I mean, clearly, I love the show, but it has the soap opera elements to it. I'm not going to sit there.
Very much so. I mean, it was a Fox soap opera, primetime soap opera, with one police department had such a large district of schools in it. It's like crazy. Like, how do you have like 7 years of school?
Not just that, very problematic schools. Like, they're always having murders, drug running, prostitution, and that's just like the first 3 episodes. Like,
no, they actually have a foreign exchange student who was like 16 who was trying to get married so she wouldn't be going back to Soviet Russia.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Like,
I'm not kidding. Those 3 I just named off, I think, are the first 3 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
And it was a bit weird that there were young ladies that they were kind of talking to as the policemen, if you know what I mean.
Well, there's no actual romances with the students.
They weren't allowed that. Yeah.
They weren't allowed that. But what was really funny is Johnny Depp's character actually ends up falling in love with a teacher she thinks he's a student. And then by the time the thing's done, he's like, no, I'm not a student. I'm a cop. And they're like, well, now it's
that got awkward. Yeah.
And then I think they killed her off, that character.
They never had a romance between the student and the thing. I don't remember. It's been many years since I watched.
Never, ever was there a romance between a student and, I mean, they had like points where like
crushed on them, but they would just reject them. Yeah.
But yeah, by the end of the episode, they'd know, oh, they're a cop and they're like 30. But anyway, Nikki D, I wish they could come up with something, but we'll have to see. I know it's something they'll probably think about, and maybe with Bad Boys doing as well as it is right now, because it's actually playing really well throughout the week here. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but it's already up to 130 million.
Pretty good for
a fun movie, like we said.
Yeah, it's playing like a summer movie should. basically. So yeah. We'll see how it goes with the competition because it's losing a bunch of IMAX screens this weekend to I was actually gonna go see it in IMAX, and then I'm like, fuck, Inside Out is stealing the only IMAX near me. Oh, that sucks. So yeah, no going to see Bad Boys this weekend on the IMAX for me. But yeah, so it's moving off of a bunch of IMAXs for Inside Out, but we'll see how Inside Out 2 bodes. They're saying it could do well. They're claiming $150 million opening weekend. I don't know how confident I am in
I
that.
never liked Inside Out. I don't know. It's dumb.
Pro said it was okay. I mean, he didn't like the film overall, but he gave it like a 7 out of 10. It's out today.
Yeah,
so
I actually liked the first one. It wasn't like my favorite of all those, but I thought it was solid.
I liked it the first time when it was called Herman's Head, but yeah.
I saw the first one once and I remember nothing about it.
Jack,
you know what's funny is
Lewis Black is in it. Yeah, that's all I remember.
Yeah, the funniest thing I think is I've seen it once too, CC, and I can barely remember anything other than like Lewis Black. Yeah.
Yeah, I barely remember it too. I saw the first one and it doesn't mean anything to me.
It was not on the higher end of the Pixar films.
No,
it was okay.
Like Up, I'll always remember the opening act of.
Well,
Up.
that's because that makes everybody fucking turn into Niagara Falls.
Yeah. But I mean, you know,
and the rest of the movie doesn't even live
like,
up to that beginning.
There's so many Pixar movies I can think of that just have like things that I'll remember forever. And maybe, you know, some of you in the audience, you do have those moments with the first Inside Out, but I don't remember anything about Inside Out.
Even Ratatouille is probably a better film, and I thought that was one of the more superficial ones when it first came out. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It did, but the thing with Pixar is all the early stuff, and I'm not the only one who noticed it, so I'm not like the first one to say it or anything, but like, you know, they always ripped a bunch of other shit off, but they were able to mix it up and make it feel fresh for kids, and the adults could actually watch them. But like I've said flat out, I mean, like even by the time you get to Cars, it's like they're not even trying so hard. Cars is Doc Hollywood. They are the same fucking movie, almost beat for beat, scene for scene. Like the scene where he even runs into the fence and shit at the beginning when he has his crash is just like fucking Doc Hollywood. Like the whole thing. Like isn't even the one, isn't he? Anyway, but like you get to that point.
That's the charm of it, though.
It is. And I mean, of course, Bug's Life is Seven Samurai or Magnificent Seven, whichever you want to choose. I get it.
That's the whole charm of it. I mean,
and of course, most people don't even see this, but Toy Story is basically a buddy cop movie.
And The Incredibles is basically the Fantastic Four, and better than any Fantastic Four movie in existence. I love The Incredibles.
The Toy Story is Death Becomes Her, because there's two people competing over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they kind of become more of a buddy cop kind of thing, but yes, you're right. The first movie is more of a it's that typical. I got rid of somebody because I don't like them, but then now everybody's pissed at me, so I got to go get them plot. And like that's they even stole that in that Pet movie a few years back when and everybody's like, oh, this is a cute movie, The Secret Lights of Pets. I'm like, yeah, I thought it was cute the first time when it was called Toy Story. Because that's all that's about is he gets rid of the pet and then he's got to go find the pet that he got rid of or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's the same story. But anyway, there is some semi-decent news. Now, there's a little bit of, how do I put this? Okay, we don't have an official comment from anybody on this, but we have a lot of people coming out and saying that the judge has ruled that they are going to proceed with the case to discovery before they make a final decision on whether or not it will be tossed out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my understanding of where things are sitting right now. So this could be a very lengthy situation. Now, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with this right now because we might get some more news. So I don't want to sit here and speculate all damn day, but basically, according to the report that's coming out from Hollywood Reporter and Daily Wire, picked it up in a few other places. On Wednesday, U.S. District Judge Sherilyn Peace Garnett ruled against the company, being Disney, and said that the suit could proceed after Disney's attorney asked for the case to be dismissed on the basis of First Amendment rights, according to the Hollywood Reporter. And it's basically the same thing they wrote in there. So there you go. So what it sounds like is they're going ahead with discovery. So this is a big deal because this is partially what Gina wanted anyway. And
this is what everybody wanted.
Like, this is what everybody wanted. So now we're going to hopefully start to see, I don't know how long this is going to take for some of this stuff to get going, how long it will take for some of this stuff to come out. Because I don't know if this is one of those proceedings that's even a public proceeding thing to where we'll actually have people reporting on it and stuff like that. I
Well, it
doubt
won't
it'll
be
be.
it's a federal court case, so
Yeah, it's a
everything's gonna
federal
be
case,
private.
yeah.
Things the other part too is like the judge has not made this official yet. Like this is Daily Wire and other things, not the Hollywood Reporter, but Daily Wire. They're putting the cart before the horse yet, right now, because they're saying it's like it. They're saying it's going to happen. It's 90% chance it's going to happen. The only thing that puts it in doubt for me when I was reading the Hollywood Reporter is that when Garnett was talking to the Disney's lawyer, and they were talking about how, Gina's lawyer, and they're talking about how Disney's First Amendment claim doesn't really give it a short circuit to get around normal litigation. The judge did say that she didn't necessarily disagree with them, and she kept that vague. And that's something you have to put into consideration because Gina hasn't heard what the actual ruling is going to be. She tweeted that she would find out in the near future. I am literally the only one in this space that has actually had a case with regards to an employer or an employee in California court regarding entertainment law. And in my experience, it usually takes 3 days for a judge to make a decision whether this proceeds or not. So we'll most likely either find out for sure Friday or at the very latest Monday, whether this is going. And I'm leaning in with everybody else. This is most likely going to go to discovery. And then from that discovery, it will then determine whether it goes to trial. And that will be fascinating because it'd be great to see if the stuff that does get into discovery is able to be unlocked, for public review, because that would be awesome. Everybody would love that.
Well, and I think they're going to get buried because we all know why Disney doesn't want discovery, because that's what this is really all about in the end of the day. Because
I can withdrew their appeal from DeSantis's.
They did, but that's because they knew that was a losing battle. But
I'll just add here. Gina did have an interview with Russell Brand earlier today, and she made it very, very clear in the interview that she wants the emails read out in court for everybody, including the public, to hear. That is what she wishes to happen, right?
Which is a great goal to have, and it's a plausible goal to get too. That's the other part. What's really going to be fascinating is to see the fact that Disney does have a very prestigious legal representation right now. However, they don't have a proper entertainment legal team wing, which is why I found that their First Amendment dismissal claim was bogus. Because already there's been rumors popping up on the screenwriting discourse and even other stuff saying that if Disney just merely stated that Gina was no longer employed after the last episode of Mandalorian Season 2 aired, the judge would have no choice but to throw out the case because the claim of wrongful termination would not be considered valid, and then it put into doubt all the other claims that she made. And the fact that they didn't do that is really perplexing for everyone. And so I'm actually really glad that Disney didn't go that way, because now they've actually just kind of got closer to digging their own grave. And all the emails that are pertaining to this, plus everything else that orbits it, will be subject to scrutiny, which will be great, because imagine all the stuff we'll find out. We might even find out, we might even be able to go so far as back to The Force Awakens and find out all the details as to how J.J. Abrams picked the various companies to help him build sets, production for The Force Awakens, and you might be able to uncover the money laundering technique that he's been using ever since he started directing Star Trek. And that would be huge, because that would literally completely change Hollywood all over. If you exposed how he did that, when it could entirely be possible from the emails, especially for specific company names that are under alias company names or temporary LLCs, oh, that would be huge, man. And then you could use that as a basis to factor into all other Disney productions since, to see where all that money is going. You could better identify how much money is being lost on the Acolyte and where it's actually going, as opposed to, it's not all going into production. It's going to be going into the pockets of some of the producers. It might even be going into pockets of Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy and everybody else in the higher ups over there. Maybe even the Disney Story Group is getting a big kickback from those expenditures. We will find out that with a discovery from Disney.
Well, not just that. I'm going to be curious to see how. Oh, go ahead, Cece.
I was just saying, you spent $180+ million on a show to come out with something that looks like the CW. The money's definitely not all going into production.
Exactly. And those records could find out where exactly it is, because a lot of that information will also be not fully disclosed to the governments for the tax credits at all. They'd all be, relatively dummy corporations of such, or temporary LLCs, or even third-party ones, because one of the things that studios like to do in order to keep costs low when they're dealing locally is they create multiple LLCs, and then that LLC buys something, and then they sell it to the LLC above them, and then that goes to another LLC, and then that eventually gets to the production, and it's all done for at a cost that's supposed to keep prices down. But over the last decade, we've actually seen the prices inflate. I mean, there's a reason Star Wars Return of the Jedi was called Blue Harvest. It was because they didn't want everybody in California who they'd be dealing with in vendors to be marking up their prices, because they knew it's a Star Wars movie and it's going to make, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, with that, we'll have to wait and see how this pans out, but I think it's going to get interesting in the next few weeks, especially if we start to get leaks from, or just news and whatnot, basically not leaks per se. But it did sound like, especially what the judge said, as far as let me see if I can find this quote here. There was a quote out there. Yeah, I'm not finding it here, but basically they were something along the lines of, that she did not feel comfortable in making a decision on this without discovery. At that moment, basically, obviously I'm paraphrasing right now, but at that moment you got to guarantee that Disney's like, oh fuck, because that's exactly what they're trying to avoid, right? Like they're not even getting to the point where this is an actual trial yet, and they're already having to do what they don't want to do.
Well, they tried a classic maneuver. A lot of times this maneuver is tried. You sue somebody, and already the first thing the person thinks of is, how do I get rid of this? And they try to come up with, the obvious of, let's just dismiss the case immediately, or they try to give a reason why this whole thing should just be thrown out. That's the right play on their end from a legal perspective. Maybe they were hoping that it would work. But I think that
they were trying to use the Constitution to get it thrown out, as opposed
to
using
funny.
The state laws within California that allow that. Again, it's not just, it's so complicated in California because actors are considered, even when they're employed or on the press junket for a project, they're considered spokespeople for that. And so Gina Carano's tweets were occurring while Mandalorian season 2 was airing, even if it was considered her own private account and whatnot. It is not unreasonable for an audience to assume that she is representing the company, even if she doesn't outright state it. And guess what? A lot of the harassment that Gina Carano received from people, whether they're bots or whatnot, is in relation just to that. So, I mean, it gives Disney the argument that, yes, they should be able to legally distance themselves away. That the fact that they didn't properly claim that in their motion to dismiss was retarded.
Well, not only that, they have another problem here, and you brought up earlier the Reedy Creek deal, and they backed out of that shit. I think one of the main reasons why, besides that they knew it was a losing game, maybe this is where you were going with it to a point, maybe not, but their whole argument and in that case is basically what they're arguing against Gina in this case. Like, it's kind of a like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, you can't argue on the one side that you should be free and clear of any political, problems, if you're going to get all political and cry freedom of speech, and then turn around and besmirch somebody publicly for the same fucking reasons.
Right.
It's a little hypocritical to be able to, because if I as a lawyer, that'd be one of the first fucking things I'd bring up.
Well, the thing that they're arguing is that they technically have not besmirched Gina Carano, because they have to connect those people that are harassing her with employees to Disney, and it's
not even about the harassment, though. Here's the problem, and this is like, I think where you and I
struggle session afterwards. That's the problem.
It's the struggle session. It's the public statements that have come afterwards. It's the fact that Disney, even though they could have ignored and pretended that statement that came out wasn't from anybody at Lucasfilm, there's been things that have said that have turned around and owned that now. So they have a problem with that this is all now attached to that I think she's got a good case there. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I will have to wait and see how this goes. And I think that's where the judge's discovery is important here, because I think she sees that Disney's argument's a little fucking paper thin considering the situation, and she does not have enough evidence in front of her one way or the other, is basically the way I'm taking it.
There's also something
that kind
else.
of a judgment.
this is a high profile trial, and I know some people will be like, no, it doesn't matter, she just wants to do her job. But the thing is that when you're a judge in that kind of high profile situation, you have Elon Musk bringing like this dream team of lawyers, you have Disney, you have all the media paying attention. If you just say, yeah, like let's just throw this whole thing out because of some nonsense bullshit argument, you're really putting yourself in the public eye kind of in a really bad position. I'm not saying that it would influence her necessarily, but I think that even judges know when something is being looked at and it's a high profile situation. And I don't think that she would be quick to just throw it out based on what Disney told her.
Well, and that's just it. If she would have got a biased judge, it could have gotten tossed out real quick.
She technically does have a biased judge. She's got a Biden-appointed left-leaning judge.
Well, I'm kind of surprised they went this way then, because at least they're trying to be.
Hasn't been made. A lot of the reporting is editorializing that decision has been made. It may have been, and they're just not being fully forthright with it. But it hasn't officially been filed and done yet. Because if it were, it'd be dominating the news in far more trades right now than it currently is. It's trickling out really slow because this is a big deal. It's the first time Disney's going to have to disclose things.
Let's just say this much: Drunk 3PO tweeted out the Daily Wire story about 52 minutes ago. If that tells you anything, and he has
but
little
Drunk's
eyeballs.
also a simp for Gina, and rightly so.
He's a simp, but he also knows stuff too. That's the other side of it. So anyway, beyond that, let's get anybody else on here, because I know Cece, I think you were about to try and say something.
Just one of the fascinating things that Gina talked about this morning was about the harassment that came her way as a result. And I don't know if that's permissible to anything with regards to Disney in court. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the law, but it's important to her. And it's certainly, we saw that happen with Grums. And in her case, she was being harassed by the public. And she talked about how, she had people following her, and she's in an Uber car, and she's like, she has to ask the Uber driver, can you lose this tail because we're being followed by somebody who's, following me.
Since this is on Grumble, the link you sent me, I think we'll be okay. So I don't know how long the clip plays for, but you gave me a timestamp here, so okay.
Apologize.
Should have
do
backed it
what
up a
we
little bit.
say.
All be damned. We'd all be dead. So who are those people that think that they can separate
There's Russell going on
and judge?
Well, I just wanted to back it up so we get some context.
Like the Pharisees, and
I think it was a little ahead of where it was.
These people are dirty. These people are wrong. It makes me very, very angry.
It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre that same people that were saying kneel down, apologize, do what we say just to get in our good graces, are the same people that have made horrendous, awful mistakes. And all it would really take, in my case, it's just like, okay, well, now you want to lead by an example as a massive multi-million-dollar company that's shielding themselves behind goodness and Disney. Why don't you show us what an apology, a genuine apology was? Because they gave me one of those, apology, written by the publicist, I need to re-educate myself, blah, 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 one of those. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I think those are ridiculous. So what I will do is I will write you out a full-blown statement from my heart. And that's actually something that I hope that once we hopefully move forward in the court case, I want that to be read out loud in court. None of the emails that I had sent, I want the court to know that. I want the judge to hear it. I want the opposite side to hear it. I want the jury to hear it. I want everybody to hear how I was communicating. I was trying my best. And that's how I know that if something like this could happen to me, it can happen to anybody, and actually really ends up happening to very, very nice people. And I am a fighter. Okay, like I do have this hot blood sometimes, but I also am very introverted and very I don't like to be really around a lot of people. I'm completely the opposite in a lot of ways. So I think I identify like with a lot of women, a lot of men out there that feel this. They feel the inner strength that if like we have to do something to take care of something, we will do it. But we would rather not, have to come out here and like take this corporation to court for being so disrespectful to artists and human beings. Like it's been, but at the same time, having said all of that, I feel like God has really kind of chosen me for this moment, and that's okay, because I knew that had this same thing happen to another actress as severely, I think my cancellation was one of the more severe Star Wars cancellations ever, which is saying a lot because or in Hollywood, I think it was one of the more severe ones. Like had it happened to another actress, I don't know how they would have handled it.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to pause it there. Because I think she's right. I think she's right. I mean, as I brought up earlier, I mean, considering her position, she can afford this to a point, as opposed to somebody else who wasn't, a struggling actress would not be able to. She probably would have bent the knee to begin with. Right.
Like, she did mention elsewhere in the interview that she couldn't afford the lawyers. Like she had to choose. Well,
I'm sure she's not rich, but she does have at least some kind of stability in her life, is my point, from her family.
She benefits from the fact, like she's just like she had to choose between hiring lawyers or getting a place to live, right? But it benefited her that thankfully Elon Musk reached out, right? No, maybe not personally, but she was able to get that support that she. Otherwise, she wasn't going to be able to afford the other things she needed.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that she's got the money like most actors do, but I do know she has some, she comes from some money.
She's not poor, but I believe her when she said she had to choose, right?
Oh yeah, well, a house is nothing to sneeze at, especially if you're buying in the kind of market that she'd probably have to look at. But either way, Mikey, you've been kind of quiet. What's your feelings on this whole thing going on?
No comment.
Okay.
I have one more comment that I'll say, that I think that Disney, their biggest mistake is that whole statement, and we've said about Germaine Lucier and giving all of that statement of the abhorrent and all those things. If they would have just said nothing, and then when the time came, just said, we've decided a different creative direction, just not featured her, they probably would have gotten away with everything, and she wouldn't have really been able to sue them. It's because of the way they got rid of her. With that statement in the press and what happened afterwards with the agency dumping her and her effectively being canceled, that is really the problem.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how this rolls. I think it's going to be a very interesting few weeks as we go through the Discovery. Hopefully we get to see what it's all about. Let's see what you guys are talking about out there in the chat. We got Warrior Justice sending into it, says, Rip Clobber Lane. I hope you clobbered into heaven. Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he made a lot of noise. Stark of Iron has been here for 4 months and says, sending a hearty hail to my friends here. Tuning in during my lunch break here at work. Love you guys. God bless. Well, thank you, Stark. We appreciate that. And then Toga Free sends in $1.99, says, y'all see Rebel Moon director cut titles, Snyder #1. I didn't see the titles, but I did see that he's doing the director's cuts. Let me see if I can.
One of them is called the Curse of Forgiveness, which is.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I think Chalice of Blood is the other one. That's like, they're dumb titles.
Who cares? It's just some pretentious bullshit. Sexier and bloodier. That's what it says here.
Wait, that you're not joking? That's a real name?
No, that's not the name, but that's what it says in the thing here. Sexier and bloodier movies gets the title.
What? Really? Tonight? One more Zack Snyder thing.
Toga Free brought it up. The sexier, bloodier versions of this Netflix saga will drop on August 2nd. A Child of Fire and The Scargiver were the original titles, and now Chapter 1 will be called Chalice of Blood. Chapter 2 is The Curse of Forgiveness. So there you go.
Oh, those are names of some kind.
Okay, people in the chat, what do I need to do to have one show where Zack Snyder and my path? Look, God bless Script, Clobby, Tom, for years, what was it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago on this channel, here I was the only guy defending Zack Snyder. I get it. I was wrong. Okay. God. Jesus. I remember when Script asked me one time, he's like, tell me exactly what it is that you like besides that, but you can't say that what do you say? You can't say cinematography. You got to pick 3 other things. And I was like, well,
Wow.
My favorite question is name a performance from an actor in a Zack Snyder film that really stood out.
Oh, Rorschach and Watchmen.
That was more Jack Earl Haley doing. He didn't have to direct.
Well, see, but you just asked though,
but that's
and
a good
I
question.
did answer it.
Yeah. Jack Earl Haley. Fair enough.
Yeah, and actually, I would argue that Watchmen was pitch perfectly cast.
Most
honestly.
of the naked guys in the 300.
Yeah, the naked guys in 300. Well, he does know his naked men, that's for sure. But anyway, Warrior Justice has a joke here for you, Mikey. What? I asked my Cholo friend, what does he do for a living? He said he was an essential worker, but he goes by SA for short.
That was a good one. I like that.
There you go. And we got Jesus Davila says, what do you guys think about? Oh, geez. Why don't you just ask us what our favorite time travel movie is while you're Jesus wants to know what you think about Elf. Well, I love Elf. I think most people on the panel like Elf except for Mikey, who adores him.
Jesus Davila has been on this show every Tuesday and Thursday for the last 5-6 years that I've been on it. So he can kiss my ass about that question. Thank you for the super chat. Kiss my ass. First of all, it's well established what I think.
We know.
Look, see, I'm getting fidgety now. See how I'm getting angry.
You're getting angry. Quit getting angry and fidgety.
Everything was fine.
We love you, Mike.
Ow. Fuck out.
Hug Bambino. Where is he?
He's downstairs with my mom.
I think I have a good example for you, Tom.
For
how like Disney could have done this so easily. Like, for example, Top Gun Maverick. It didn't have Kelly McGillis, right? Do you know how Kelly McGillis found out that she wasn't in Top Gun Maverick? She probably saw a commercial for the movie and she knew she wasn't in it. Meaning you don't have to do anything. You don't bring the actor back.
Oh, the Gina thing. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, that's what all of us said from the start.
Oh, I got an answer for a script. When Eva Green got naked in the second 300. Oh wait, Zack Snyder, did he direct that?
No, he did not.
I don't think
I'm sure he was head
one.
of the casting coach.
Oh shit. You know what's sad is Shit Factory can kiss my ass because we probably sold more Elf box sets for them than anybody else.
Yeah, someone sent me one downstairs.
Yes, and I guarantee because I got so many messages about that.
When you come visit me, can we set it on fire together and do a video?
Outside of a couple of physical media channels, nobody was talking about that. We brought that up on the morning show. And I got so many messages from you guys out there going, I'm going to get that. Where's the link for that? And I sent the guy. So fucking Shit Factory for blocking me from their website can kiss my turd.
But wait, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The person that did that sounds like he's some low-level customer service person.
I have emailed them 2 or 3 times about that and nobody's gotten back to me.
I feel like if somebody actually with a real decision maker at that company would notice what happened, they'd probably try to do something to make peace with you. It really doesn't make sense that they're treating you that way. Like, I don't get it at all.
Oh, I do, because all the good people that were at Shout Factory are gone. They don't even call themselves Shout Factory anymore. It's Shout Studios. That's how fucking pretentious their asses are now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the motherfucker who came at me isn't one of the main guys, because I've heard.
How do you get in so many fights on Twitter? Like, how does
because I have fucking standards, and I'm headstrong and I'm Irish.
Wait, why did they try to why did they blacklist you? I'm sorry.
Okay,
I know
so the short version, I know. Yeah. Okay. So the short version is I was having some issues with their customer with some deliveries, and I also wanted them to combine another order. So I emailed their customer service, never got an answer. Emailed them like 2 or 3 times. Finally, after you make a sale, though, through their website, you get the opportunity to go on Trustpilot and give them a rating.
Okay.
I would give them a rating on Trustpilot, and I would say, well, I was complaining about this, that, or the other. And they would come back within anywhere from minutes to just a couple of hours, and they would comment on my comment. Shout Factory would.
Okay.
And I would start pointing out how is it you guys can comment within minutes to an hour on my review that just happens to be bad, but yet I can't get an answer on a single fucking email to customer service. So they took that as what do they call it? Abusive behavior. So because of that, they have blocked me from buying stuff from their website, which isn't a big deal because I can still buy stuff from other places. But what is a big deal is they have exclusives that you can only get through their website.
What if somebody noticed within that company and they'd apologize to you? Would that make a difference?
I would think they would, but I'm not an isolated incident. They have, and I found this out recently, they have actually threatened to sue another YouTuber over a t-shirt that I don't even think they have any right to fucking claim. Because they made a parody of Creep Show, and because they had given Shout Factory some bad reviews on their videos, they feel like they retaliated by sending them a cease and desist on this, claiming they own the copyright to that Creep Show poster.
Okay, so
even though it was a parody.
Here's the good news. The good news is you don't need any more DVDs anyway.
Well, that's how I deal with my anger and my sadness instead of ice cream.
You buy 4K? No, you can eat ice cream and you buy 4Ks.
I don't eat as much ice cream as you think I do.
Yeah, Gina just posted on her Twitter about it.
Okay.
So let's read it. 3 minutes ago.
You got a link?
It's not. Yeah, I got you.
The judge rules on something, nothing's nothing. What are we talking about?
Is it the same thing?
Right here. Said you on the private chat.
Yeah, she basically said that the Daily Wire jumped the gun.
Jeez, who already said that?
Ooh,
Yeah, all right.
Daily Wire looks real bad for this.
I already told you guys. She was cordial with the Daily Wire.
Yeah, didn't just 18, 20 minutes. This is, number one,
she did move on from them too.
Number
right?
one, this is why I said no comment. And number two, didn't Script just say some shit like this like 38 minutes ago?
And also in our Twitter DMs prior to this, I told you.
This is why I said no comment.
Well, that's why I've hedged the whole thing from the start, is we don't know for sure yet. It's not like I haven't presented it any other way.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that until there's a ruling, how much is there to talk about what the ruling might be?
Well, that's why we're moving on. Yeah. Accident Seller sends in 15
let's
Norwegian
go
Krona.
back to you not eating ice cream and you not buying DVDs.
I don't eat as much ice cream as you think. Like Nerdrotic said in episode 3 review of The Acolyte, as Accident Seller says here for 50 Norwegian Krona, Leslie Headlamp, that's a good one, took Star Wars into Weinstein's office and
molested
the shit out of it. Old habits die hard. Well. I seen Steph had a tweet that took off like wildfire. Did you guys see that? Steph, aka one of the Toxic Femme ladies.
Oh, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I like her.
Did you see this?
No.
She has like over, I think it's like 50 or 60K likes on it so far. Whoops, wrong. She says this thick-necked bitch ruined Star Wars for everyone who had a little bit of hope left in the franchise. Up to 61K likes now. Good for you, Steph.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Agreed.
She's so right.
Yeah.
God, that look at her.
She looks like Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse if she were a man. Look up Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse. He's known for having a very.
I'm not convinced she wasn't a man at one point, Nick.
Do we know if she just escorted the ladies into the office or also participated?
Well, that's the thing, and this is what bothers me about her. I'm not going to sit here and make any straight up accusations about her, but I'll say the same thing I usually say when somebody brings this subject up. I don't see how it was fair of all the men, from Robert Rodriguez to Quentin Tarantino to Kevin Smith, even, to get asked consistently in the press about why they didn't say anything if they knew about Harvey, but yet nobody, and I mean nobody, has ever asked any of the women that worked with him, especially her square-headed ass.
That's because of patriarchy.
And if she is such a fucking lazy ally, then why isn't she out there after? And here's the thing. What does she have to fucking lose now? She could come out and say anything and everything about him in the world now. There ain't a goddamn thing anybody can do about it.
Tom, I have
he can still sue, even if in prison.
He could sue in prison, but he'd have to prove that she's fucking lying.
No, she'd have to prove she's telling the truth.
Well, I'm sure she's got plenty of fucking evidence if she needs to.
You have to understand that Hollywood personal assistants are not soul. There's a number of them. So she could be on an avenue that had nothing to do with that. Because again, a personal assistant is not singular. Bob Evans has 7 personal assistants right now. You think they all coordinate with each other on the minutiae details? No, they have their assignments of the tasks that they do, and that's what they do. She could be one of those. We don't know for certain. She had all the agency in the world to come out and say, I either did this or didn't do this, or I wasn't cooperative in this area or what have you, and she hasn't. That is worse, because now you can make all those speculations, and the fact that she's not defending it, or at least saying that she's not part of it, is even more worse. The other part too is that the only celebrity that I know of that was able to confirm and find out what Harvey Weinstein was doing was Brad Pitt, and he broke Harvey Weinstein's nose over it. And that's why Harvey Weinstein's nose looks the way it does now, because he never got it fixed. And again, like, I heard rumors, but I never heard anything confirmation. But when I heard the Brad Pitt story, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm steering clear. And if I know any young actors or any women that are going to have deals with him, I will convey the information I have to keep them on their guard. But again, like, you understand, there's a lot of big secrets that can be kept in Hollywood, and there's a lot of rumor throwing around that is also not always accurate. But at this point here, because I'm not defending Leslie, I think that the crazy lady needs to make a statement in this, especially if she gets challenged on it, to set the record straight. Because I think the reason she's being silent about it is that she could probably make herself culpable in a lot of those things, possibly through any ancillary means. Just booking the hotel room and not having any idea what was going to go on in there could make her culpable under the eyes of the law. Doesn't matter that she didn't doesn't matter that she wasn't the one that hooked up the woman with Harvey or anything of that nature. The mere fact that she just booked the hotel room at Harvey's request and then just went off to do whatever other errands she was required of him to do is enough to.
That being said, all this
under scrutiny.
The fact that it was such a open secret in Hollywood, I have a hard time believing that she had no fucking clue, and it still goes to stand to my whole point. Even if she had an inclination, she is such a fucking non-ally if she didn't do anything or say anything or try to stop anything.
Or at least to women, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
And didn't. I mean,
and it's not just her. All the fucking women, any women involved with him, they've never, ever, ever asked them, ever.
Didn't they ask Rose McGowan?
Well, that's because she, I think, volunteered the information out in public. That's a big difference. But I get what you're saying there. But I mean, as far as like ever one of these gotcha questions, like they ask all the men all the fucking time that have ever worked with him. That's my point.
Well, here's the other part too to also consider is the fact that celebrities are not as wealthy as you think they are. And when Harvey Weinstein makes a threat and has the power that he has, you realize that, yes, if you want a paycheck, if you want to work again, if you want to maintain your life level of living, you probably cannot speak out against the king. And that's the other part to also consider. I mean, a lot of people think that, yes, some of these actors are reportedly getting millions of dollars for a movie, but a lot of that money goes into their production company to pay for people to help them find other movies. They don't have it to sit on and invest in and what have you. They spend it really fast.
Okay. Again, though, taking back to my initial point, though, again, at this point, what has she got to fucking lose? If anything, she's got everything to gain. And sure, Harvey could turn around and try and sue her, but he hasn't tried suing anybody yet. That's been out there saying shit about him, so I don't think she'd be that worried about it. But his court is also being
brought up. I think in the state of New York, it's being reviewed again because there's some.
Yeah, but we all know
that's gonna have a ripple effect on California because the entire California ruling was predicated on the New York ruling, so that's gonna have a crazy effect. And I mean, the worst case scenario for Hollywood is that he gets quote unquote exonerated, even though he did commit some of those horrible things. But he comes back to Hollywood bigger and badder, and then he just does a firestorm. But I don't know.
He'll be lucky to survive until the end of this shit gets even sorted out at this point.
It's not likely that she didn't know.
That's my point.
No, it's very not likely.
She's into ladies.
Extremely not likely.
Am I correct to say that she's into ladies? She's
into ladies, and there's a high probability.
So she may have been attracted to the people that she was interacting with. I mean, maybe she had total self-control, and I'm not suggesting that she didn't, because that's totally plausible, but it's like
she didn't present herself. The only thing that I could bring to the table, which I actually can say firsthand, she didn't present herself as LG when I met her many years ago.
She didn't come out of the closet until later on, I guess. That's from my understanding and memory from doing research on her.
When I met her, she seemed like a regular, I'm sorry, I know this is not a good term, but seemed like a regular woman.
No, like you go look at older pictures of her. She looks like a girl. She dresses like a girl. I mean, yeah, a little butchy in some shots, but for the most part, her hair
I
and the way
was
she
like
you know,
I was early on in her career when I like met her, and she looked 100%. She was thin, did stuff that like
Yep.
women do, like makeup and stuff. She
Yep.
looked 100% like a woman, and you would have not known that she was LG. Not that
Wow.
I think
don't
she
care one way or
I think
another,
she
but I'm
came
saying that.
out.
Christ. I almost
No, he's
don't believe
100% right, because I
crazy.
can't remember exactly when she came out, but it was sometime between when she became famous and between when she wrote the play and when she became famous for whatever the fuck it was that her first, what was her first
Russian
thing?
doll.
Russian
For
doll.
sure.
That's what I was trying to remember. Yeah. So sometime between there, I think she came out. So by the time I think we get to Russian doll, she was already considering herself lesbian. But then again, you know, it doesn't really fucking matter. She probably already had that predilection or whatever before that.
No,
It's
she's
just,
been in relationships for years, or like decades. Like the thing is, like she just never shared it with anybody.
yeah. So like my point is it's become a more open thing in Hollywood where people can quote unquote act more whatever way they want to now, as opposed to what it was back then too.
Bisexual is a very easy way to participate.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
This gay talk is awesome, but I can smell dinner downstairs.
Yeah, let's get rolling here. We got Mr.
Spicy,
Tickle
no,
Trunks.
yeah.
Mr. Tickle Trunks sent in a member chat for 35 months. Thank you for that. Warrior Justice says with $2. Tom, was it Red Dot or Woo Woo Indian in the in the what? What is that thing? I can't. Yeah,
Or an iPad,
I'm trying to figure that out.
or is there a phone?
I think it's a phone.
Yeah. What were we talking about with Indians?
Was
What
it a
did I
Red
say?
Dot or a Woohoo
I don't
Indian on
know.
the
The
phone?
Anthrax song.
Did you? Well, yeah, I didn't mention the Anthrax song, but I don't remember talking about an Indian.
Well, it's couldn't tell you.
You'll have to clarify that one. You don't have to send in another super chat. Just add us. Mr. Ticket Trunk says Gina just confirmed what Script Doctor said. Check X. Yep, we did that. Thank you. And Six is in the house. How you doing, Six? Send us in his super sticker. Let me see if I can see what that is. Now that I got my fan funding thing just working on the other side here, it is a super pair, which is also what Dolly Parton has. God, that
My
was
mom
funny.
wants me to take her to Dolly World Land.
You should.
Oh, dude, it's like 6 to 8 hours each way.
Oh, that's a long ways. Yeah. SFX F314 Sabretooth Raptor sends in 5 and says, sending support to everyone, sending a hug to you, Tom. Rip Clobby. Well, thank you for that. We appreciate it. And thank you again, all of you, for all the outpouring of support in the last couple of days. We appreciate it. And so does, I'm sure, Clobby's family as well. SFXF314 Sabretooth Raptor sends in another 5 and says, Mexican Iron Man, get an E-Wing with elf cannons and a Smurf Nerf. What's SW mean in this case?
Nerf
Star Wars?
Star Wars? Okay.
You great friend on the tube, SFX. Get an E-Wing with the Alf cannons. I like that idea.
And then Gonzalo Bagali's been here for 27 months. Thank you for that. Let's see if
I like
okay,
that
so
idea.
Shout Factory customer service Red Dot or Woo Woo.
Oh,
No. Yeah. No, it was just they just wrote it, so I couldn't tell you. It wasn't like I heard a voice or anything. No, on the other hand, you have the opposite where Kino Lorber, I like get a phone number and stuff from them where I can call and talk to somebody and they take care of all my shit over the phone, combine orders, not a problem. Great customer service. Shout Factory is the absolute opposite. Absolute opposite. And not only that, they overcharge for everything. And I could go on and on and on about what's wrong with them. But anyhow, we got to get out of here because Mikey's hungry and he smells his dinner being cooked. Mikey, get us rolling here. Anything you want to plug? Or are you going to be on the morning show tomorrow? Or are you going to be busy?
I don't know.
That's right. So we'll see if you show up or not.
Yet. I don't know.
Otherwise,
yet.
you got anything else coming up?
I don't know right now. It's been a rough week and my entire schedule is shot.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. So yeah, maybe we'll see you in the morning. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll see you pop up at some point somewhere because you're not a YouTuber, but you do play one on television.
Shit, that's technically a
It's
loophole.
true.
it is a loophole, yeah.
But if I'm, oh shit, God,
You're not a YouTuber, but you pretend to be one.
Yeah, see, it's like when you're a doctor on television.
Yeah, like me.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one.
Script
Maybe
is
I could
and
help.
by the way, nobody buy this shit that Script's like in his 30s or 40s. He's Doogie Howser. So depending on the time warp and how he's like Script's like 85 years old.
Well, I already figured he's been lying to us from the start about his age. So
yeah, he's
why
like
wouldn't
85. He just has a young voice.
Yeah. Oh, we got more super chat. We missed a Scott Westerbrook super sticker.
What? No, get that.
Oh,
up
that
there.
was yesterday. Sorry, that was my fault. I was looking at the MEAD group. That was from yesterday. Okay, we're good. We're good. I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to miss anybody's super stickers or super chats. That's all. So I seen on Daryl had posted it, but I see now it's from yesterday. So okay, we're good. So yes, Price, what have you got coming up? You got your show later on tonight, do you not?
Yeah, I have Quantum Leap Revisited, which hopefully Script will also be there. And then later after that, I have The Night Owl with Dread Roberts, which is at 11:45 p.m. Eastern.
Okie dokie. Nick, I'm sure you got a few things coming up.
Oh yes, sir. Obviously, I'll be on TNT in under an hour. Tomorrow night's comic shop talk will absolutely be a Clubby tribute. I did hit 2K subs, but I decided to push that show back to next Sunday. Right now, it just feels way too inappropriate to have that type of celebration. And I'm pretty sure he'd probably be even mad at me for that one. But right now, my mind is focused on celebrating his life. That is far more important than 50K, 100, 1 million subs. So I want to celebrate him before I celebrate anything else. So that's what I'm doing. I'm standing by it. So next Sunday that'll be happen after. And of course I'll have another video out too in the next few days as well. And I had posted something recently that apparently people have no idea that it released. So go check them out. And thanks for having me, Tom. And I love hanging out with you guys. And I don't say it enough, but I truly love and respect all of you guys on the panel and everyone in the chat. So thank you for being a part of MEAD.
Here. CC, Friday night karaoke.
Yeah, we're back at it. Tomorrow night, karaoke. You can come hear us sing some songs.
All right. Script, Patreon, Scripts on Saturday.
Yep, that stuff going down, but hanging out with Price in under an hour, talking some classic great Quantum Leap.
All right, and this will redirect you over to that stream in case you guys are interested in that. And with that,
well, we got a couple.
We got a couple more super chats.
You got all the
flew in
super
here.
chats,
Awesome.
yeah.
You missed her super chat, says Mr. Tickle Trunk. Oh, we missed 6's super chat. Oh, well, we did.
I only see the super sticker.
And then we got Mexican Iron Man imitation YouTuber, says Mr. Tickle Trunk. All these flew in at the last second here. Thank you guys. And then Warrior Justice says with $2, which married wife is cooking for you today, Mike? Oh, you're muted.
It's my mom, and she would take issue with the married wife dating thing because she's never met any married woman that I've dated. No, wait. No.
Well, all the love to Mexican Iron Man.
I meant because there haven't been it.
You walked right into that one, buddy. Accident Seller sends in 20 Norwegian krona, says, you missed this very super chat, Tom. This one here. And I did. And 6 says, why are you skipping Mr. Tickle Trunk super chats? Because he's Canadian. What other excuse do I have?
Canadian money isn't really worth anything.
It's not real
really
money. You see, this says it's a toonie, but here it's worth not even a oney.
After YouTube's cut, it's I think 22 cents.
Not even. It's like, yeah, I'm paying him. Every super chat he sends me costs me money.
Well, no, hey, with taxes in Canada,
With the exchange
you're not
rate,
wrong.
I'm fucked every time. It's like,
We'll tax you 50% on top of YouTube and everything else.
Oh, that's PC, man.
Hey, Annie Derivative.
Yeah.
Annie Derivative Jill, how you doing? Thank you so much for being here. Says thank you for the intro. I miss him. And yes, indeed. That was really tough to put together. But I want to thank 6 for finding his first test stream. Again, that was awesome. Thank you for that. And it was just so perfect. So thank you. And he's like, give me your money, jokey boy. Well, thank you, Mr. Tickletron. Warrior Justice says that Canadian money is monopoly money. Now, monopoly money is probably worth more. the paper
maybe,
that
I
it's
mean-
printed on is probably worth more.
Well, I mean, we don't print ours on paper. We print it on a laminate veneer. type
Yeah.
stuff. Or sorry, not latex, but it's something.
Pictures of the Queen or King, I guess now.
Pictures of the Queen. It'll be King Charles in a few years, but Queen. I mean, our money is the same color as all of Europe and UK and the rest of the world. The US is the only one that has white and green bills.
Yes, and Lance says, "Stop with the super chats. The bestest YouTuber has to eat." Yes, he does. Mikey, thank you for being here, brother. I love it when you get to show up. I appreciate it. And again, let's just say one more goodbye to Klobby as we leave the show. We miss you, brother. You'll be here with us always. And take care of yourselves, everybody.